Well, that's how it's run, right? It's a different drop. It's 6:30. And then we have, it might just be, got the recording started.
Yes.
We will start the meeting with the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
More voices than we've heard in a long time. Happy pledge. Could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stelter,
Here.
Trustee Check,
Here.
Trustee Heck,
Here.
Trustee Hunter. Here. Trustee Tomardo.
She was excused.
You have a form, yeah, she is.
Thank you. First, anybody have any changes to the agenda? And if not, can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Announcements, I'll start with the one in writing, and I know we have a couple other announcements around the table, and I'll start with this one. That the town continues to accept applications for an open seat on the zoning board of adjustments. This is a 3-year term, and the zoning board of adjustments only meets when there is a scheduled public hearing. Applicants do not need to live in town limits to serve on this board. Applications are due to the town clerk by noon on January 7th. Please direct inquiries to the clerk's office at town hall, and it does not meet very often. So if anyone listening in the room would have any interest, we would much appreciate putting in an application. So I know we have other announcements, and we'll start with you.
Yeah, I have two. They're behind me. So, I wanted to introduce to everyone our two new front office staff. Ashley Wardard is our accounting and payroll specialist. And Thena, with a D, Thena Backron is our utility billing purchase coordinator. They've already been hitting.
Okay, thank you, welcome.
Welcome.
Nice to have you be introduced in public. Thank you, Stefan.
Those are my two.
Okay, and Mike, you had an announcement.
Sure, I
Trustee
just wanted to make a public thank you to the fire department, police department, the EMS is on the job when the fire, popped up. Did an outstanding job. And that was as elegant as I could get, so just take it.
Quick better.
I apologize for not getting this in here and I can't give you exact dates, but I want to put on everybody's radar. To keep your eye on town news because we will be announcing the date where people who want to run for the board of trustees in April can come in and pick up their petitions and start getting on the ballot. We're gonna have the 3 4-year seats and 2 2-year seats open, so we really need people to get involved. So just keep an eye out for it. It'll be in the new year.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't see it on our agenda, so I'll say it as well. December 30th, we do have a special meeting, and that is for a budget amendment for fiscal year 25. Since we didn't do our 5th grand project, we're reducing a budget by $3 million. And then we're doing some other tweaks, but we're reducing the budget.
And it starts at 4, correct?
Yes.
Right, okay, just so everybody knows, it's a little earlier than normal. Okay, if that's it for announcements, we'll move on to our public comment portion of the meeting. Oh, yes, sorry.
I think we approved the agenda.
Yeah, we did, we did. Do you need to know who did
Yes.
the motion in the second? Yeah, trustee Hunter did the motion and trustee Heck did the second, and it was unanimous.
My bad, thank you.
No, not a problem. These things happen. How many times do I call you the wrong name? The wrong title. So this is the portion of the meeting where anyone in the room or on Zoom can speak for 3 minutes on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. And if you're interested, raise your hand and come on up to the podium. Give us your name and whether you live in town or not, and you have your own 3 minutes. Anyone in the room interested? Okay, seeing no one, anyone on Zoom with a hand up? None, okay, well, thank you. We always want to provide that opportunity. So our next topic is the consent agenda, and we have the November 25th regular meeting minutes. We have the December 9th disbursements, and I wanted to bring up that there is a staff report about the December disbursements. But when I was in the office today, normally, what is on the agenda tonight is to not have the normal second meeting of the month. But because we were having that special session on the 30th, I wanted to suggest that we actually do disbursements on the 30th rather than waiting on into January. So I suppose this would be the time to decide whether to do that or not. I kind of think it's best practice that we would get it done in a month, and we can get it done.
Yeah, I prefer to go through that normal process rather than, approve them ahead of time. But everything that is normally would be like an invoice that we're receiving, we're paying on a credit card now. So that we'll have expenses, but they'll be in a credit card statement. But I do have several invoices that came in after the cutoff for this packet, so that we'll still have to pay.
So I guess, we will do that then. We'll have a disbursements on that at that special meeting. So, for tonight's, okay, yes.
Could I get a motion for that, please?
Sure.
Since it's a special meeting, just to cover bases.
Okay, would you like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda and a second motion about putting disbursements, or you want to
I
do it?
prefer if you do the one removing the second set of disbursements from the consent agenda
Okay.
and adding it to the September or the December 30th special.
Okay, all right,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove the second round disbursements from the consent agenda for tonight and add those to the December 30th regular or special meeting.
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great, that's a good way to do it. So now we have the meeting minutes and the December 9th disbursements, and did anybody have any questions on the minutes or disbursements?
We didn't have any outstanding or strange things in this disbursement. They're all pretty good for the course.
There was one check at the end,
I guess we did add a final payroll check.
which was in handwriting, but it's all accounted for.
And I should reiterate, the reason we do that is because we're approving that through the system and it won't show up on an unpaid invoice report. That's what you guys approve, is the unpaid invoice report. We're giving checks on an employee's last day, so they don't have to wait 2 weeks. And that's why we have to handwrite it in and change it to it. In our system, it all looks this, and all that totals there. It's just, this is an unpaid invoice.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to staff reports, and Administrator Wynn, I'm assuming do you have anything you want to do now, or you want to wait till budget?
My report is budget.
Okay, that's-
Now I do owe you a fourth quarter report. That'll be in January.
Okay, good to know, thank you. Chief Landmanger.
Okay, so for our November summary progress, the department completed required Spillman update to the Delta County Sheriff's Office. And this upgrade enables us to use the updated Spillman program. Spillman program is what we type our reports on. That's our computer aided dispatch. That's how we get all of our calls. That's how we run drivers, things like that. That also sets us up to fully implement that Spillman mobile that was approved last year on our laptops when we get those up and running. So this is a necessary upgrade for us to make sure everything's running smoothly, given that we are relying on the county to run that system. I'd also like to take this time to give a friendly reminder to remove snow within 24 hours of accumulation and try and keep sidewalks clear. I know it snowed a couple days off and on, but let's work on keeping those sidewalks clear, especially for our kids who are going to school and the people who are particularly using those pedestrian sidewalks in this downtown area. Officers have been going out, speaking with businesses and homeowners, trying to educate them. We have written no citations on that. That's not our goal. We're just trying to educate people on what that requirement is. Training was completed in several core areas in the month of November. This training included driver's training, firearms training, qualifications, as well as arrest control tactics. All three of those are required trainings through the state and post. And we'll log all those hours, and we're required to submit those hours to post. They get reviewed. and audited as to what it is we did and what our training comprised of for the entire year. And those hours are being submitted now.
Hey, Matt, can you explain what those is?
Yeah, so HOST is a police officers standardized training board, and that they really just oversee all training, all credentialing and certification of police officers in the state of Colorado. So when legislature mandates certain trainings, whether that's mental health training, domestic violence training, anything like that, it defaults to post to establish the requirements for that, how many hours, what the training is gonna be on some of those things, and then it's up to each department individually to meet those training requirements, define trainings if post hasn't offered them, and to make the determination that, yeah, we feel like this training will meet the criteria that the legislators put in place. Once we do that, everybody signs that they attended the training and we submit those hours to post. Thank you.
Thanks.
We currently have one opening and we're gonna be conducting interviews and follow with eligible applicants through December. Those interviews will probably start next week. And the last thing I want to add is we started registering dogs now for 2026 as well. And I believe we already have some.
We have 10 already.
I'm really impressed. Within 6 minutes of that text going out, we had people coming in to register their dogs for that discount. It was pretty creepy. It's huge from what we've done and had in the past. So,
You should see the people at this table.
Yeah.
If you register before January, you get $5 off.
It's great.
Yeah, and so that the dog registration kind of fits into our community policing model that we implement here, where it's more educational as opposed to enforcement strictly. And it seems to be well, registering the dogs is a good example of that.
What do you have to bring in when you come in to register dogs?
Vaccine or rabies.
Okay, proof of that.
I'll prove that.
And would you take our word for them being neutered or spayed? Okay.
we're not inspecting dogs.
You know, have fun.
We don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Sure.
I do have a question. I don't know if it's for you, chief, or it's on snow removal. In general, what is the policy for businesses that are unoccupied?
Still downtown, it's still 9 AM, right?
So if they're like the TDS building, for instance, still owned by TDS, still has batteries in there, but there's no humans in there, so there's nobody doing snow removal. So what is the procedure for dealing with that?
So for us, what we've done as the police department is we've accumulated what we call a business book, where we have contact information for all the businesses downtown. And really that's more for, if we have an alarm go off, we need a key holder, we have a fire, we need to reach out to somebody. What we've traditionally done when we have an alarm or we have a rope or something like that, we use that business book that the officers have created and reach out to the property owner. It's the same thing with code enforcement. We'll reach out to them and let them know. We've gone so far, depending on the situation, sometimes, unfortunately, we'll have a house where the elderly tenant may be at the hospital and unable to, in which case we'll work with them to make sure that sidewalk gets clear. It's similar for businesses. If a business has recently shut down or they're not available, we'll work with them on that. And while the 9 AM, that's kind of our cutoff, we're also pretty understanding on some of the days like we had last week where it's snowing continuously off and on for multiple days. Again, it's more of an education versus enforcement for us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Vicky.
All right, so this is kind of a mixture with December, but we'll start with water. We got the 2 million gallon tank update. They're about 80–90% done. They still have some welding and roof work to do as well as the floor. Due to this weather, they're delayed a little bit, so we're working through that. Lead and copper updates. I don't know if you remember from the scorecard, we're supposed to be doing lead and copper service lines at a percentage of the community. That has been passed along to our water guys, our water operators, so they're going around with the back truck, potholing to see what the, yeah, stuff
Like
like
when a mechanic going by, is the back truck leaving the shop?
Yeah.
It's just because they were looking for lead.
So, and again, for anybody, they might come knock on their door, they won't pothole if But they're just asking if they can come see what is coming into their house. And that's a whole lot easier than potholing. So, but that is what they're doing. So there's certain addresses that they'll be going to, knocking on doors and asking if they can punch a hole 3 feet out of their water pit to see what material is made of. So that's kind of what they're buttoning up right now.
How was that trailer working for you guys?
It's fantastic. It doesn't do so well when it's super cold. Obviously, last year, the first time we used it was in February and it froze almost immediately. So we definitely will not use it when it's freezing, but to do stuff like this, the water breaks, fence posts, all sorts of stuff, but we can use it for almost anything. So it's been extremely handy.
I'm curious about where you're looking for copper or lead pipes from the meter to the main.
So what this,
line.
the state is wanting us to, it's pretty much any media that you got in there that's galvanized, PVC, HDPE, they wanna know. As well, but yeah, lead and copper is what they're.
From the meter to the house or
Yes.
from the
Yeah,
meter
so
to the main?
Yeah. So it's customer side plus our side, so we gotta. So Western Loop update, I just had a meeting today with respect, trying to get those easements finalized. What we're doing currently is adjusting a little bit where the line will go due to right of ways. On Lambert Mesa based off the meeting we had in September. So they're still kind of working on that. I think we have almost finalized and Wilmore is going over legal descriptions to make sure that they're accurate. Because we got that feedback as well as some. So working on that, Beacon Badger pilot program. So in our capital improvement, we have switching cellular for our meter reads. Beacon Badger has a pilot program that will give us 10 meters with 4 months of service. To see if it works in our area, which it's sounding like it's really going to work. When we get that going, we just sent over, texts, W9, all that kind of stuff. They're setting up to send us those 10 meters and they will also come and install.
So this one is, it's also the first pilot for our requisitions and purchase order module in Cassell, so it's up and running. We were able to print off a requisition order that and send that over to Beacon Badger to their vendor so that they could start, getting things to us. As part of what they're also working on is they're also going to help us update Cassell. So for each different type of meter, if we have a manual read or we have a radio read, there's different coding that's needed in the system. So for cellular, they're going to need the same thing so that we can upload and export without manually typing it in. If you remember, July of 23, we were reading all of our meter reads with the handheld unit, writing them on a piece of paper, bringing those reads in, and then typing them into Cassell. And we don't do that anymore, right? We go out and we read it, we export that file like magic, it goes into Cassell, magic, there's buttons to push, and then it auto-populates. We still have some manual reads that we're doing. We're trying to make it so that when we read these cellular reads, they also automatically go in like a radio read. So that's part of their setup as well.
Yeah, and we won't have to drive around and read them.
Oh, that's the best part.
So you're not gonna be driving around reading your meter.
So the services that we've been paying for as what Beacon has offered this entire time is it's called Eye on Water. And you can pull up and see what your meter is doing in real time, going to these cellular reads. And so we think that that's something, it's going to help us with water loss, mitigating, water leaks, and seeing if a meter works accurately or not in pretty quick time.
So we'll save on staff time significantly, that's fine. And in road time, we're not gonna be reading meters in a dumpster. Yeah.
Well, you will for phased.
Yeah. All right, moving on to wastewater, not a whole lot is going on in wastewater, but we did clean up out there, as you can see here. These are kind of well, actually, some of it's just a junk pile, that's what street sweeper debris is, that one's hard. But we got a little extra playground chips, we had a wood pile, there's a concrete pile out there. This is also where like you would want to put those aggregate bins would be out there, and this is why, it's just bare ground, but we were able to clean it up. We have significantly more room out there, so that's kind of what that looks like out there. That's about all we got going on out at the sewer lagoon. Streets has been extremely busy these past couple months. With leaf bagging, you can kind of see how that process works. We've got a truck with the leaf back, somebody sucking that up. And we actually have two people, there's another person, what we call the hill strip. It's the space between the sidewalk and the road, and they're just pushing leaves to the gutter. And we go through and backing them up, so they've really been hitting that hard. It's probably over now that it's freezing temperatures, it's too wet, things of that sort. So they've been doing that, they've been doing, I think, tree trimming is. Yes,
About the.
Oh, my side.
so, yeah.
So have all the leaves been picked up out at Twin Lakes? Did people,
I
pretty much get 'em all?
because that Delta compost project has started,
so I hope they got,
so I'm pretty sure they're either gone or we have both got.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Tree trimming, so we are starting the process of annually going through and getting some of these side streets, trees. Up to some sort of standard. Now we know this picture looks scary, I can see the trustee, there's holding his head.
Protection there.
She is harnessed, they went, yep, she's got chaps on. They went through an entire training before this as well to make sure that this was all safe. We didn't have any vehicle damage, we didn't have any window damage, any property damage. They did extremely well. We got new equipment, I don't know if you remember the disbursement for pole saws. There it is, it's working, it's great. Those trees were almost touching the ground, kind of thing, like we're starting. In the process.
Resourceful, anything.
Potholes, we started there before the snow. When we are starting again this week, since we had some decent weather. I know this is kind of a generic picture, but these little tiny holes get filled with water and just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's what they're working on this week as well. This one's kind of delayed. We did this back in October, but if anybody's been over to West Fourth Street, the street almost doesn't exist. It's mostly dirt. There were trees in the gutter. They were in the street. It's just completely deteriorated. That is on the list of projects. So you can kind of see that we're sweeping it up. Now the gutter is clear, can actually run water. There's no trees in it. And so that'll be prepared to hopefully pave maybe next year with an IGA with. That will have to be in stages. It's rather long. So, the 25,000 or whatever it is that they have for us for doing sections. We finished up curb painting. If anybody's noticed over at Reedy's and by the bank, they finished that concrete, but now it is painting. We're done with painting for the year as well. So we got that completed.
That's Kaylin's shadow too.
It is. Can you tell?
It was a haircut.
Parks, we have started a daily reporting system, which is super nice, in Fulcrum, which is an app that the water team uses quite often. But we go through and we do a daily report of bathrooms are clean, trash cans. We don't necessarily empty the trash cans every day, that we don't waste bags, but they are checked. Playground equipment, things of that sort. So that is now all in a daily report in Fulcrum. The tree and fence damage, I think I got pictures of that. So that big snowstorm really did a number on park trees, as well as trees around town. As you can tell just from that one in through the background, that's what the entire park looked like. So we spent several days chopping those up and getting rid of them. If you keep going, I only have one picture of the fence damage, but you can tell it's just scattered out through there. This one's at Apple Valley, an entire tree came down. And there's the damage to part of the fence. So luckily we have this kind of stuff in stock for on a bit long, but it ends up costing us quite a bit of money when these big storms come through. So the tree program that we're trying to start and get kicked off will really mitigate this kind of stuff. So,
You may see an invoice before the end of the year, because what we saw with the winter storm is down our truck route, Third Street, you can see what we call widow makers just kind of dangling. And Bailey can't get on a trash truck.
Yeah.
Get them. We gotta get somebody with the right equipment.
so we have one on Third and Onarga, and that's also where the minor statue is kicked off. So there's one up there. So the tree service will get them on Thursday. So it'll be all right. There go by Thursday. Yeah. So the Delta compost project, Farnsworth has started. I don't know if you guys have gone by there. He did a really good job at trying to keep the ground warm and dry. He put the blankets out when the storm came. He was out there today leveling it. So that is moving forward. The blocks get delivered on the 16th, so we'll unload those. And we'll end up placing those when the concrete pad is ready. But that's kind of where he's at right now. He's got the leveling going. And the blocks will be here next week. That's kind of all I have on trash, but other things, Public Works has had some staff changes. We are down 3 and we gained 1. We hired a new mechanic, Lonnie Stroud, which I didn't make him come to this meeting to introduce him, but.
They wanted to, by the way.
Okay, he's probably, I think he's gonna be a great fit. He's already fit right in. He's getting along with everybody. Everyone's, teasing everyone. It's a good time. So that's a big bonus. So we will have 2 openings now, even though we lost Kaylin, who was the part-time person as well. So that just ended anyway, but we have 2 openings that we're supposed to for Public Works. We did some training. Rodney got a certificate in time management training through SURSA that he took upon himself to do. And so that's been really good. And he is doing a lot of research to get the crew some more training because it's our slow season. Everyone so he's working on those ADA training as well. We did that last Thursday. Kind of crammed it all into one day and really learned about how to see issues in the field. It's really nice and kind of some things we never thought about. Even just in this hallway, some of the what we call violations, but things we have wrong in there. Yeah. That you would have never really, our bathrooms are really good there. Another little quick update that wasn't on there as well, the Stewart Ditch update. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. They have turned in their last little piece of their contract. We're just waiting for their. We needed to get them the notice to proceed for them to get the payment bond and performance bond. So he's getting those to us and then we're ready to go. I was talking with Lance Rundle and we'll get that going. Working with PD for traffic control, things of that sort. So we're gonna it's gonna be a little funky up there for a bit with the trailhead. We're gonna ask people to go through Creek Vista instead of through Apple Valley. That would be more walking through a construction site. So that's what we will try to post and get everyone to go around.
We have a meeting tomorrow with Creek Vista, or I'm sorry, Hawkshaven, to talk about that access road as well. And, kind of look at the existing conditions to make sure everything's brought up, back to existing conditions.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll pick up within the next 2 weeks.
You just need to get it done by March 31st.
Yeah.
March 31st.
So. Questions?
Thank you. So we'll move on to our actions and presentations, and our first action is consideration of appointing an applicant to the Board of Trustees. And I know we have an applicant who is sitting in the front row, and Hector, if you would say your last name, because I know I'll butcher it.
Gerardo.
Thank you.
So hard to write.
Yeah, I was not going to pronounce it that way, so thank you. Gerardo.
You're welcome.
So we have to vote for a new trustee is a vote by the trustees. And would you like to ask Hector any questions that you didn't get to ask the last time we had an opening?
You grilled him pretty hard.
I'm very excited that he's back. Do we really need to vote considering we only have one applicant or we do?
That are not.
Yes,
Okay.
because it's an appointment, it needs to be a picture.
Do you want to come up and ask us any questions that you didn't get to do before?
No, everything was done last time.
Hey,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I know. Just gotta give me the opportunity. All right, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to to approve the application of Hector Majorano to be appointed to the vacant seat on the Board of Trustees until the term expires in April. And new members are seated on April 28th, 2026, the regular board meeting.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay,
Do we need to vote though?
I think so.
Yes.
I mean, okay, never mind.
Okay.
My brain was somewhere else. I just thought
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, you mean, Bob?
Yeah, I was like, are we?
Oh.
We'd only do that if there's more than one.
I see, that's what I was asking, like, do we need to?
Gotcha.
I got it. I'm
Gotcha.
good.
I'm with you. I get where you're coming
I
from.
mean, the motion passed.
Yes. So now, I think you come up and are sworn in.
All right.
I bet you even have a nameplate.
And someone needs to get a picture. We had Frank Witowski ask for a photo of you as you're being sworn in.
Oh.
You're gonna be in the PCI.
All right.
Yes.
I guess there's some.
I, Hector Majorado,
I, Hector Majorado,
affirm that I will faithfully support the Constitution
affirm that I will faithfully support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of Colorado,
of the state of Colorado,
and the laws of the town of Peonia,
and the laws of the town of Peonia,
and I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
of the town of Peonia,
of the town of Peonia,
to which I have been appointed.
to which I have been appointed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's see the picture of the ones. That's gonna put Karen's up. So right now, it's just a vacant seat.
I know that pretty well. Yeah.
What did you have?
What's that? Yeah, I know, but such. But. It's never open. Welcome, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Is that some late reading you had tonight?
Was morning.
Yeah, right. I know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, moving on to our number 2 item of business is, oh boy, consideration of membership on Board of Trustee committees. All right, so on the November 25th meeting, we talked about committees, and at that time, Trustee Check agreed to be on the Finance Committee, so it is now a filled committee. And Trustee Check and I are the Finance Committee. And then Personnel, we are gonna postpone that committee after we get our new employee handbook. And then we have the Parks Committee, which is currently Trustee Stelter. And we have an opening because Trustee Valentine has resigned. So we have an opening on the Parks Committee. The Public Safety Committee is currently Trustee Check and Trustee Hunter. And we have the STR Ad Hoc Committee, which is the one, Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz was the chair of that committee. and she, resigned her seat. So that, there is a spot available for a trustee on the ad hoc committee, and I can't really describe that very well. So maybe trustee Stelter or Mayor Pro Tem Stelter or Administrator Wynn can describe that in a moment. But I just also wanted to put in here that we have Mayor Pro Tem Stelter. We have three members up here on the planning commission, and they are myself, trustee Hunter, and Mayor Pro Tem Stelter. And the tree board is represented by trustee Heck. So we really have two vacancies. One is on the Parks Committee and the other is the STR ad hoc committee. But this is also a time if people that are on committees would like to change committees, except for you. The finance committee. After all the signing we did. So those are where we are, and so we need to fill a park slot, and could somebody explain the STR ad hoc committee? Maybe
It's,
either one of
the
you.
committee's met only a couple times. And the thing is that we are tasked with advising the town council on the regulations for STRs. We have several citizens on the board, and it's an important board as far as that goes. There's gonna be input by the committee, and then it'll come to the town council and the staff, and some rules will or will not be made. It's all up in the air at this point.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
And the way that our committee is established, it's not like a traditional committee where, we're gonna listen and make motions and seconds. It's consensus building, so it's a consensus-based committee. Meaning we're not moving forward with something unless everyone is in agreement and it's been negotiated before, and with thumbs up, thumbs down. And those are the ground rules that were set. Our first meeting, we did the ground rules set in.
Ground rules,
We
yes.
looked at what we were, what it was gonna look like, and we chose the resident members of the committee. The second meeting, we really started laying the groundwork for where we need to be. And the homework was to review comprehensive plan, the housing needs assessment, housing action plan, and several other documents. And it was several months ago, so I hope that homework's done. But we were waiting until trustee Schwartz could come back. But now we're waiting till we have another board member.
And is there an expectation as to who is the chair of the committee?
Once we have our next meeting, I think we'll reestablish who's the chair.
Trustee Schwartz was the chair.
She was.
And could you also describe the time frame we're under for this?
I think our moratorium, do you know when our moratorium is exhausted? We extended it. Is it?
Not off the top of my head, but I can give that to you.
Okay,
It's June.
June, okay.
And could you explain what that moratorium is?
Yes, there's a moratorium currently on any enforcement of provisions of the code that could relate to short-term rentals, like renting of a room in your house. That has been, a short-term basis, not long-term. That has been, that had been suspended until we could figure something out.
And I had put in the previous agenda packet, the meeting minutes from, I believe it was your first meeting where the ground rules were set. But there's also the expectation of a lot of citizen input to these meetings, because these meetings are open to the public. They published? Are they
They are
announced?
published.
Okay,
The only thing that we're not doing is broadcasting by YouTube, and that was a request of the resident members of that committee. They didn't want their information or, out everywhere.
they don't want to be out there for perpetuity,
Right.
like you just.
Like
Sorry. Okay, anything else? Okay. And how many meetings do you think it will be now that it obviously wouldn't be a meeting, I wouldn't think till January.
I think we had a meeting every 2 weeks, and we were going to determine if additional meetings were necessary. So they were the off weeks of trustee meetings, board meetings. I'm glad that we had a pause. But yeah, it's a pretty heavy lift until it's done.
So if I might ask Mayor Pro Tem Stelter, are you still able and willing to be on the committee or?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so it means we need another person on it and we still need somebody on parks. And before we go on, is there anybody who's on a current committee they would like to change?
Except for trustee.
Except for trustees. Well, wait a minute, you could get off of the Public Safety Committee.
Oh, then. No, that's been fun.
Okay, all right, so.
If I may, I was just gonna point out that trustee Tarno did express her interest in being in the Parks Committee
Oh, I
at
forgot
a
that.
previous meeting.
Okay, so that is one that needs to be filled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if our new trustee has any interest in serving on the ad hoc committee for SDRs.
Wouldn't mind. Might take that on.
So.
Yeah, you read the comp plan.
That's what's on his desk.
Yeah.
Just kidding, I have no
He's
idea
got
what's on his desk.
Yeah.
Was that tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
217 of it is budget.
Yeah, and it's not double-sided.
No.
Okay, with that, you'd be interested on the SDR, and we have trustee Tarno, who was interested in parks before she left for a visit. So, okay, do we need to make a motion?
No.
No, okay.
Perfect.
So as part, yeah, thank you. And so, Administrator Nguyen or Mayor Pro Tem Trust Stelter, would someone sit down with our new trustee and kind of describe a little more about the background of that?
Give me time the rest of this week.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much. Okay. We are consideration of resolution 28, 2025, which is canceling the second meeting of December. Yes.
Okay, I wrote that staff report really late at night, but I think. I did, okay, so I honestly put on their resolution, this is not done by resolution, it's just done by a vote.
Okay.
A 2/3 majority, so.
Mhm.
But so my apologies for that, I don't know why in the world I was thinking it was a resolution, but.
In that meeting. What date is on that?
It was December
23rd.
Thank you. Oh, that's almost Christmas Eve. or is it
Yeah.
Christmas Eve? Oh, I think we should eat. Just kidding. Just kidding. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'll move to cancel the December 23rd regular board meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, this is an ordinance. 2025-10, publishing disbursements on the town website. So I would turn it over to you, Clerk.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't write a staff report for this one, but this was our ballot issue. Our apologies for not getting it to you sooner. We had a lot going on. So this was actually voted on by the voters of Peonia. The information is in there. It passed by quite a lot. So now we just need the ordinance to go into place. And then get it published so that in the new year, we can just start putting our disbursements on the website.
Any discussion on that? Oh. And I have forgotten, anyone in the audience have any comments they'd like to make on this particular part of the agenda? This one we're talking about right now, putting this ordinance. Seeing none?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 10, 2025. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving right along, this is, we are looking at a consideration of approval of town's comments regarding the BLM Colorado March 2026 oil and gas lease sale, draft environmental analysis specifically pertaining to parcels CO 2026-03-6157 and CO 2026-03-6169 within Uncompahgre Field Office, and these two parcels are, what direction is that? That it would be
Northeast.
northeast of town. And I put this letter together. I read through the environmental analysis. And I don't know if you all read the letter in here, but I felt like it's, first of all, it's really important that we don't know if normally the BLM puts the comments they received during scoping in the EA. They did not here. They only did mention that they got 103 comments and 10 from municipalities, et cetera. I don't know if that was in the big beautiful bill that they don't do that anymore. I don't know, but I asked it in the letter. And I don't know if we'll get a clarification, but because of that, I want to attach the scoping letter that we did approve back in, I believe it was October. I'd like to attach it just for the public record, so it's in there. And then the remainder of the letter really is questioning their reasoning for saying that they were keeping those two leases in the lease sale. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have or any changes you'd like to see to the letter.
I do have one change, and that's, should you wish to be on there, is to add our new trustee.
Oh, yes, I was going to say that. I didn't want to, yeah. And you will be on here if you're good with that.
I don't have any questions, just a comment. I think the letter is great, really well written, and thank you so much for doing that.
Welcome. Good for us to keep our thoughts in the public. And if anyone in the audience would like to come up and make a comment on the letter or anything else in this section, please come on up to the podium. And just give us your name and if you live in town or out of town.
I'm Jette Carlson and I live in town. And I would just like to encourage everybody in this room that this is also something each one of us can do individually. And there's a link in the BLM, on the BML website. And so it would just be wonderful if the more people do it, the better it is. And we can use this maybe as a draft or.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Write my name here.
If you would, please. Anyone else and no one online? Oh. Okay, there's no more public comment. Any other comments from trustees? And I will make sure we get you added in here, and I'm gonna need some help getting the old letter attached. So I'll come back in the office to get that done. Okay, with that.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the letter with the addition of trustee Majorado to the letter.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Consideration of approval of installation of additional Verkada cameras by Mitchell and Company.
Yeah, so this is kind of a joint effort between Chief and I. We already have an existing contract with Mitchell and Company. They did our Verkada cameras that are at the park, town hall. And both water, wastewater plants. So we are requesting 2 additional ones to finish covering our facilities. One will be out back here at town hall. That'll capture the parking lot, people coming in and out of PD, the alleyway, and then one at the shop. Recently, we've had some issues with trespassing as well. We have some pretty unreliable Amazon cameras right now that aren't doing so hot. So that one there will capture our yard, the bulk fill station and part of Second Street. So, these cameras are doing fantastic. I know Chief can probably give a way better description of what they've done with them, but we were able to see things that were going up at the tank for the water plant. They're crystal clear. I know they've been able to find a hit and run. I believe.
Yeah, we've used footage from the cameras already, so hit and run trial we had on Grand Avenue. We've used them at the park already for a couple of smaller issues that we had up there. We also got to test them out here recently with the holiday fair. to check our parking, given we were closed on 200 block of Grand Avenue, we were able to look at that and see what kind of staffing we were gonna need pretty early on in that event, if we need to bring other officers on, if we were gonna have to tow vehicles. As you know, we posted that 24 hours before, but when we could pull up the cameras first thing in the morning, it was pretty clear at that point we weren't gonna need to bring on 3 officers to make sure that block was clear, so we're very helpful.
Yeah, at the shop, we've had some issues with the bulk station, water fill station in the past as well, and that would just help keep a better eye on it as well, since it's an asset that's very well needed. So, yeah, we request that, we add those 2 additional cameras. Attached is the quote as well as the install fee. That would complete our facilities.
So it's $12,058.
And I think it's also important to note that the original ones we put in actually came in under the budget. So we have a credit.
Questions, comments? Any comments from the audience?
Do you have a credit? Is that what you said?
It came in, our original quote came in under its install and materials, I believe. Was what it said. They didn't use quite as many materials of install material when they put in the original, so we came in under on the first one.
So you have more, just seems really expensive for you. Doesn't it?
Well, it's important to point out too, that the cameras, so that total cost includes the cameras, the install, the cable, as well as the cloud storage for the life of the camera.
Do we pay a monthly subscription as well for all the activity on all the cameras?
That was included, that's a part of the.
Okay. Oh, I didn't see that. Okay. Oh, 5-year camera the license. Okay. And we've done 5-year and all the others as well.
Correct.
Okay. So will we have to pay more?
No, this cost is well too. This
But I mean, will we have a cost next year? Unless we're adding new cameras?
no, this should be our 5-year cost. We should be all in at this point.
Okay. Great. Any
It
other?
would be only facility that we won't have,
Any other comments? If not, ready for a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2 additional cameras from East cameras for surveillance, safety of the town shop, west side of the town hall.
I'll second.
Have a second? Did you hear that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we're switching gears to the public hearing. Is there anything, Clerk Vet, or anything I need to do? Should I just go start reading? Okay. I will now open the public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2026 budget and purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these items before the Board of Trustees. The procedure for public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by staff. After this presentation, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in. Please do not repeat points made by others, but it is fine to say that you agree or disagree with a comment previously made. Please direct all your comments to the Board of Trustees and not to the town staff. After receiving public comments, we will allow town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the Board of Trustees, and the trustees may ask questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing and the Board of Trustees will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing has closed, no further comment from the staff or public will be taken. However, the trustees may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. Do we have proper notification?
Madam Mayor, we do.
Thank you. Do any trustees have any disclosures or conflicts of interest associated with the budget? Seeing none. We'll start with the staff presentation. Would the town administrator please give the staff presentation?
Yeah, so this is gonna be kind of backwards. Really, these two should, since it's a combined resolution, they could have been two agenda or one agenda item combined. The proposed millage rate going into tax year 2026 is the same as it's been for the last 12 years. That's 8.322 mils. Even though we've set that tax rate, you would think that as assessed values go up, we would see more revenue coming in. It's not the case for us. We're seeing less revenue come in, even though assessed values are going up. The reason for that is new state initiatives to give different types of property tax credits have taken effect, and we're seeing that. So when we really get into the budget, you'll see that I've done a look back to 23, and you can track to see what the revenue looked like for property taxes. And you'll see that, it's been reduced by about 20,000 change over the years. But what you're setting is a mill levy for this year for tax revenue for next year. That's how we get our revenue. And again, that is 8.322, and it has been the last 12 years that I could find. So,
And it has to the voters.
no,
If we were to.
if we were to increase it, it would have to go
That's what I
to
mean.
the electric, correct? That's it for the staff report on the mill levy. The real meat and potatoes is in the budget. And Sam, how do you want to do this?
And just do both at the same time, Ian, since it's combined.
Okay, so should I continue on with the budget then? Okay. Staff report is there, but let's really dive into this budget that actually I'm just gonna do this. Okay. This is the culmination of several months worth of work and an entire year worth of tracking our expenses. You've seen those come through in the form of monthly budget to actions, so that we're tracking things accurately. We started in the middle of the year also tracking fund balance. That was very helpful in putting together this budget. You also saw that when we completed our audit by June 30th of this year, which was on time, for the first time in several years, without an extension, that we also completed what we call an ACFR, an annual comprehensive financial report. You had the auditors and our third-party accountants tell you that this is an excellent, we're in pretty good financial health fiscal. What you also saw was that I took the time to complete a statistical section. That's a 10-year look back. That 10-year look back was very helpful in generating this budget. I was able to find beginning and ending fund balances since 2023. And I was able to put those to show trends as well. It's a best practice by the Government Finance Officers Association. And every year we've tried to improve our budgeting and our transparency in public processes. This year, we also did a deep dive into the capital improvement plan. But I'm going to get ahead of myself. This is a transmittal letter that goes with every budget. It's required as a best practice from the GFOA, and it comes from the fiscal officer and the chief administrative officer, which is myself, in both. And I want to read it to you. So I know it's going to be kind of long, so bear with me. But I think it's important to hear everything and get that on the record. So, Honorable Mayor, Board of Trustees, and residents of Paonia, staff are pleased to present the Board of Trustees the proposed fiscal year 2026 expenditure budget for the town of Paonia. The total requested appropriations across the general fund, capital improvement funds, special revenue funds, and enterprise funds equals $16,162,111, of which $1,764,575 is within the general fund. That amount constitutes what we call the budget. So when you're talking about general fund, that's how we provide service delivery for most of our residents. That is our budget. So when you look at what's happened historically, that number has gone from 1.1, over 10 years to now 1.7. Okay, I needed to get that caveat out. $1,321,086 is within the general fund's major and non-major funds capital improvement plan. Those funds, I'll get into how those are made up as well. 3,200,000 is for the Fifth and Grand Realignment Project, which is mostly grant funded. Our expected local match for the Fifth and Grand project, that's money out of our fund balance, is just under $31,000. We were over grant funded, but still had a local match. And that agreement is currently, our federal highway agreement is currently with their central office in DC for signatures. And this will only result in approximately 32,000, which is 31,000 from the street fund capital improvement plan, where we have 3,168,000 grant funded. $8,480,450 is within the water utility enterprise, and includes $6,859,000 in investments in infrastructure improvements. Most of that is grant low interest loan funded, and $878,500 in the wastewater utility enterprise, $442,500 in the sanitation enterprise, and $75,000 in the North Fork Valley Airport Capital Improvement Fund. This total includes all operating expenditures, debt service, capital outlay, and any interfund transfers for fiscal year 2026. The budget doesn't have any interfund transfers. Instead, we have three. We have our operating expenditures, which is made up of personnel, operations, and then our capital and debt service and our capital outlays. Total available resources for fiscal year 2026, including estimated revenues and beginning fund balances for all funds, equals to approximately $20,296,020. Because total appropriations do not exceed total available resources, the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget is balanced in accordance with Colorado law and policy. This is a balanced budget where our total expenditures or appropriations don't exceed our available resources. That's grant money, loans, fund balance, and any revenue that we bring in, like property taxes. That's a good thing. And we're going to end each fund with fund balance. Within this total, the general fund continues to serve as the primary operating fund for core municipal services. For fiscal year 2026, adopted general fund revenues are estimated at $1,662,750. When combined with an estimated beginning unrestricted fund balance of $813,338 total resources available in the general fund, that equals approximately $2,476,088. I know there's a lot of money here that's floating around. Once we get to the schedules, it'll be easy to follow. After funding operating costs, debt service, and general fund capital needs, the general fund is projected to end the fiscal year with an unrestricted fund balance of approximately $711,513. That's good. Even though we are dipping into fund balance to balance this budget, it's still ending with a healthy fund balance. This level of fund balance preserves flexibility for unseen needs while continuing planned investments in public safety, planning and building services, public works administration, and all town administrative services. The fiscal year 26 budget was developed with extensive input from the Board of Trustees, the Finance Committee, staff, and the community through a series of meetings and workshops held throughout 25. Drafts of the budget were amended several times to incorporate trustee direction, refine revenue projections, update personnel allocations across funds, and better reflect the town's current and expected financial position. Updated budget documents have been made available through the Board of Trustees packets on the town website. The fiscal year 26 budget is scheduled for adoption tonight during this meeting. Work on the budget began in late summer when staff began putting together proposals for their capital improvements for fiscal year 26. Throughout 25, staff tracked expenses and presented them to the board and the mayor and the Board of Trustees through detailed monthly budget action reports, staff reports, and departmental work reports. During the September 23rd, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting, budget workshops were scheduled by the Board of Trustees. So we had additional workshops that were held September 25th, September 30th, October 14th, November 10th, and then again on December 5th. So we've had quite a few workshops to develop this budget. I'm skipping some stuff. The feedback received during all public workshops and discussions helped to better inform the fiscal year 26 budget and the development of the 26 to 30 capital improvement plan. So to put that into perspective, we've had capital improvement plans in previous budgets, but nothing that has roadmapped us for 5 years to the tune of just shy of $20 million. I mean, that's how much we're looking at over 5 years. As part of this budget, the town is prepared to integrate, there we go, I've already explained that. This fiscal year 26 capital program appropriates approximately $4,521,806 in dedicated capital improvement projects. These appropriations include continued work on the water CIP Phase 1, transportation and safety investments associated with the Fifth and Grand Avenue realignment project, bridge and sidewalk improvements, and park and recreation enhancements. The 5-year capital improvement plan is intended to function as a living document that will be updated annually as projects advance, new funding opportunities emerge, and community priorities evolve. The overall size of the town's budget has grown in recent years as the Board of Trustees has chosen to invest in aging infrastructure, replace critical facilities, and improve internal systems. What we saw for many years was that rather than use budget for right-of-way improvements or repairs to sidewalks and streets, the previous boards had elected to retain that money and keep it in fund balance. We start to run into problems with Tabor if we do that and not spend down those balances. And what we've done this year is present a budget where there's a lot of work happening in 26. And we'll go over those projects in pretty good detail. I'm going to skip some things and go into our budget highlights. Fiscal responsibility and transparency in finances. Town staff remain committed to strengthening our fiscal transparency and monitoring budget performance on an ongoing basis. The monthly budget to actual reports that we initiated in 24, including a running tally of grant awards and drawdowns, will continue and be refined in 26. New technology and additional modules within Cassell, the town's enterprise resource planning system, or ERP, will be implemented to improve real-time cost tracking, especially for grants and capital projects. Staff will continue to pursue external funding to support priorities identified by the Board of Trustees, including federal and state grants that can leverage local dollars. The addition of contracted grants management capacity in 24 has already improved the town's competitiveness and will be further utilized in 26. This budget also continues to invest in town staff. Town employees are the individuals who deliver essential services and maintain the infrastructure that holds our community together. A well-trained and qualified workforce is vital to sustaining and enhancing our quality of life and the quality of life for our residents. The fiscal year 26 budget continues the town's practice of providing cost of living adjustments for staff and includes this year a selective merit-based increase for employees who have demonstrated excellent performance. During that December 5th workshop, we presented that process to you, so you can see that there's not everyone is going to get a 3% increase, right? There's the possibility of 1, 2, 3, or none for merit-based increases. The budget also assumes that all employees contribute toward the cost of health insurance, while the town continues to cover the majority of the premium, but we are contributing to a portion of that health insurance. These compensation investments are designed to keep Payoneer competitive with similar communities in our region and to improve recruitment and retention in our challenging labor market. This budget also is an investment in technology. The town will continue to modernize its processes and equipment through replacement of aging computers, deployment of docking stations, provision of appropriate mobile technology, and implementation software so that staff can provide higher levels of service to the office in the field. We're also looking at key investments, continuing that with our security cameras, but also the potential for enhanced technology improvements in other areas as well, like our electronic PLC valve replacement project that was scheduled for next year at our water plant. Infrastructure improvements. This is going to be, this is a big year. It's a lot. The most significant expenditures in the fiscal year 26 budget relate to infrastructure improvements. A lot of these have been carryovers from 24 and 25, but they were held over for good reason. We received additional grant funding You know, so we were originally looking at in 25, moving with Fifth and Grand for almost $1.5 million, spending down a lot of fund balance. But because we received that federal build grant as a direct recipient, which is incredible for a community our size. It normally goes to state departments of transportations and large consolidated governments like Denver, City County of Denver. That's where those funds go as direct recipients. We got it here in the North Fork Valley. It's incredible. So that had reduced our cost from $1.5 million down to $32,000 local match. I explained that. We're also budgeting for our share of, if we were to receive a grant for the bridge repair work, we've already budgeted in this to use, you know, as a spend up. Our match would be $500,000 for about $1.45 million in funding for that bridge. That's already budgeted, but we didn't budget that revenue. So if we do get it, we'll have to do a budget amendment. This is also, this budget also invests significantly in our existing fleet, our fleet and vehicles. So with this 5-year capital improvement plan, we're also making targeted investments in replacement of the town's aging vehicle fleet, particularly in law enforcement, public works. These investments include an ongoing patrol car replacement program, outfitting of new patrol units with modern equipment. Yeah, you heard that during the December 5th workshops for officer safety, and transporting people safely. And the planned purchase of a mid-sized pickup for the water utility and other right-sized vehicles for public works operation. Across the municipal fleet, a structured replacement program on an approximate 5-year cycle is widely recognized as a best practice in both government and private fleet management. Research on fleet life cycle management shows that replacing vehicles before they become chronic maintenance liabilities reduces unplanned breakdowns, lowers repair and fuel costs, improves uptime, and increases eventual resale value. So we use those, use the funds that we would get from these newer vehicles as trade-ins towards new ones in future years. You saw those pictures. You've heard from our staff what they're currently using to try to get the job done. You saw that we're using a garbage truck as a lift to get limbs out of trees. In that sense, the larger initial capital outlay needed to launch a regular replacement program is expected to yield dividends in the long run in the form of lower maintenance expenses, more predictable budgeting, and better service reliability. For the police department, newer patrol vehicles were also a direct investment in officer safety. Modern patrol vehicles incorporate advanced crash protection, stability control, braking systems, and airbag design that reduce the risk of serious injury and collisions. You heard from the chief that we have some patrol vehicles that can't include a rifle rack. And right now they're unsecured. And so if there was a rollover or something were to happen, those things become missiles in a car as things happen. So we're investing in that officer safety. The new cameras that are installed, this blind spot monitoring in new patrol cars, also help with things that our officers have to think of that are always in the back of their mind, which is, to detect an ambush, right? Police officers tend to have this stigma attached to them, and not everybody's a good person. So we're thinking of those things as we're replacing our aging fleet. I'll just go through to the end. This budget is intended to serve as the town's financial roadmap for fiscal year 26. It consolidates the policy direction provided by the Board of Trustees, the needs identified by staff, and the feedback received from the community through the comprehensive plan, housing needs assessment, code rewrite project, and related engagement processes. In my professional opinion, this fiscal year 26 budget reflects the goals and objectives established by the Board of Trustees and provides the financial framework needed to advance our strategic plan. If you remember last year, we introduced the first strategic plan for this year. It also maintains sufficient flexibility to allow for adjustments during the year as conditions change and as new grant opportunities arise. We budgeted for that bridge replacement project. On behalf of the staff, I express my sincere appreciation to the mayor, the Board of Trustees, the residents of Paonia, and town staff for their engagement, support, and careful consideration of this budget. We have updated our organizational chart. internet is going slow, I apologize. But our organizational chart was updated to reflect there it is. Some changes in how reporting it happens, like Public Works, and then also within the administration office. For the final budget, I'll change the vacant to trustee Majorano. Let's see. And when we do, so once this budget is approved, I have to send it to two places. I send it to DOLA, which the state reviews our budget, and then I also send it to the GFOA to continue that distinguished budget presentation award that we received for this year's budget. I'll continue that process with this budget. We did improve things in this one with some transparency, but what will change is you'll see a cover sheet on top. You'll see a table and you'll see a table of contents with clickable links. Then that way, when it's published on our website, it's easy for somebody to go to individual bookmarks. Those bookmarks are on the side of the screen right now. We've broken them up over significant, for each department as well. Are there any questions so far? I want to go into budget overview.
Each of you.
I'm not in the agenda packet.
I mean, I think we're all probably looking at the budget email. That you emailed.
Oh, okay, I'm on page 60. This is an overall look at our entire revenues. Let's see. Oh, this is what I wanted to go to. I'm sorry, I'm going to go earlier. I'm going to talk about our major expenditures. Those are expenditures that are over $25,000. And there's several.
What page are you on?
This starts on page 48.
Thank you.
So I part of what this budget does is it looks at spend down of our fund balances. And when we talk about that spend down and where we are with a fund balance, on page 48, you'll see that we plan to start fiscal year 26 with a beginning fund balance of $813,338. And we're planning to end it with $711,513. That's a 12.5% reduction. This is an important number to keep under control, both not spending down every year, but also keeping it not adding to it so it's too high. This is what would have to become our Tabor refund. This is specific to general fund stuff. That we've got to watch. And we were getting really close with our fund balance going into this fiscal year as well to really needing to look at doing something differently. So we're starting that spend down. These are for any lawful purpose within the general fund. So that's personnel expenditures, operating expenditures. It could even be used for capital outlays. However, we have other funds for capital outlays. For example, we have a sales tax capital improvement fund that is specific to the general fund. That fund balance we're looking at also spending down 12.9%, but that's going towards different capital outlays that we're going to talk about in the next few pages. Our special revenue funds, that's our street CIP, it's funds that make up our street capital improvement plan, our conservation trust fund, and our sidewalk fund. We're looking at spending those down as well by 44%. That's significant. However, we have projects that need to be done. Our water fund is looking at reducing by 13%. There are some things that we're working on that aren't grant and loan funded that we're looking at doing into next year. Part of that is that $116,000 for the electric PLC valve system. Those kinds of things, and then vehicle replacements. The wastewater fund is anticipated to go down by 14%, but that is specifically to, we'll get into it really deep, but there's some things that we're buying in capital outlay that's needed for the plan. Sanitation is looking at being reduced by 27%. Beginning the year with $234,560 and ending the year with $170,560. This is to roll out a standardized trash can program. So, and we'll talk about that more when we get into the sanitation, we'll talk about sanitation expenditures. It also purchases 2 sets of new garbage truck tires, for our trash truck. Okay. So our summary of capital expenditures. Our summary of capital expenditures, these are things that exceed $25,000. We have quite a few because we have quite a few projects going on in 26. The biggest one, the second biggest one, the biggest one that affects our general fund is the Fifth and Grand realignment project. That's what we call that, the Safe Pathways for Paonia. Our funding sources are made up of special revenue funds like our street fund CIP, grant funding. There's no loans for this one. And it is not recurring, meaning it's not going to happen over multiple years. The Fifth and Grand realignment is, like I said, our most transformative street improvement undertaken by us in decades. Although the project has been contemplated for several years, various design, funding, and coordination challenges delayed construction. Thankfully, due to that delay, we received, $1.88 million from the federal government for a build grant, leaving us with only roughly $32,000 to pay out of our fund balance. That's an incredible undertaking. And I should give props to our grants coordinator, former mayor, Mary Backren, because she was the one who submitted that application. We got it. So much so that I had a phone call yesterday from a community in New Hampshire, small town, that wanted to know how we did it. And I talked to them and I said, here's our application. But it does take coordination. I said, we do have a letter of support from the CDOT executive director, Shoshana, which is incredible. It kind of, her grants manager was kind of like, what are you doing? Because that's money that they could have had for other projects in their bigger program that we got. So
You can thank the previous mayor.
yeah, it's
for that
huge.
relationship.
Is she built that relationship when the bridge collapsed over,
Culvert,
yeah, it was the culvert.
yeah, 33 was closed.
That's right. So pretty incredible. We're also doing our vehicle replacement program. So this isn't just, we're not outlaying $196,000. This year, it is a recurring expense that goes over 5 years. So, that's really important to know, that we are starting a vehicle replacement program in 25 and carrying it through 2030. That's why this is listed here. It's an expense over $25,000 through multiple funds, but it's also recurring. We're going to be doing this over the next 4 or 5 years. Our town hall roof repair. Thank you for approving that in our previous workshop to go into this CIP. So this is, again, another expense that's not recurring, but we anticipate it's probably going to be about $65,000 to re-roof this building. It's in really poor it's in poor shape. Somehow when Ruben put up Christmas lights, it didn't fall through it, but he got those Christmas lights up. Yeah.
Maybe you should all step back.
So we do have this expense that needs to be done this year. The largest expense that we have going into 26 is our Western Loop water line replacement. Previous documents, we go kind of between realignment replacement. We're doing both, but it is a complete replacement of that 8-inch steel line to a 10-inch plastic, standard new pipe. And that is not recurring. We're not doing that over multiple years. It is a project that is supposed to start and end in 26. Most likely, we might have some final stuff in 27, but it'll be minor. The bulk of the work is being done this year. It is 70-year-old 8-inch steel pipe that we are finally replacing. And I'm sorry, it's to 12-inch, and in some locations down to 10-inch. We're also doing some work to some of our pressure relief valves, and we're realigning everything so it's out of people's private yards or going through the middle of their, quarter-mile driveway into public right-of-way, like it should have always been. I understand why it was built out the way it was, but this is the right way to do it. Nikki's been working on easements so that we can go into 26 ready to go. The one that's currently in process, but I'm carrying it over to next year, and again, it's not recurring, is our 2 million gallon water tank relining project. You see that, $3 million, well, you gotta remember, we had design included in that, site work included in that, acquisition included in that, a temporary tank installation and rental included in that, and then the relining itself. So when we got our bids, you saw that, so you might have seen some of those bids were really, really heavy. They would have exhausted and then some. And I don't know if they realized that the temporary tank taken out of it, they saw previous budget numbers, and just kind of get off that. But it's underway, and hopefully progressing smoothly. Our wall water monitoring improvement, that's something that's going into next year. And that's monitoring or metering our raw water sources or springs at the source. So that we know how much water we're collecting on the mountain, making sure that we're meeting the capacity of our water rights, and we're comparing that to what actually comes into the water plant. That's why these meters are necessary. It's going to tell us how much water is up there and where we're losing that raw water on its way to our plant, so that we can start targeting additional improvements to our raw water system. Standardized garbage can program. So this is a non-recurring cost. I've finally gotten in touch with the garbage can company as well in anticipation of this. And I think we've budgeted for more than what the actual cans cost. But I wanted to make sure that we could cover all of the cost of procuring additional garbage cans. We're talking two different sizes. We're talking a 35-gallon size that is standard on wheels with a lid, that's attached, not one that can blow away. For those that are on single can agreements, then we're talking about a 95-gallon trash can for those that are 2 to 3 cans that is the same exact way. Then those that have multiple, there's only 42 of them that use up to 4 cans, they'll get 2 of those 95-gallon cans. That's to stop any sort of abuse of the system, and to really help us track what people are actually putting into our trash truck that we take to the landfill. And I want to bring this up that the cans that we're looking at from the provider that we're looking at, 10% of the recycled plastic that's used in that can is ocean-bound plastic. They call it an ocean core can, and it's stuff that would it's ready to go to the ocean, maybe travel to a different country. And sometimes things happen and just kind of ends up in the ocean. That's what these cans are made out of. So I thought that aligned with our comprehensive plan as well. The Samuel Way Bridge repair is also what we call a non-recurring expenditure. I've put it in here, just not the full amount, just our $500,000 expected match if we get that grant. But it's also something that we have to do. We can't do any more overlays, as you guys know, or we'll lose our ability to be unrestricted in weight. And that would be devastating to our local businesses who rely on semi-trucks for deliveries. So that's why this is an important project. The other bridge on Grand, that bridge is weight restricted and semi-trucks can't go down it. We also have a Safe Streets for All study. So that's another one that's over $25,000. That is also not recurring. It's to prioritize our street paving program and what we see in our ADA transition plan by safety, safety needs, so that that's also a federal grant that we've received, but it will prioritize our pavement program. And that once that document is completed, we'll have like a 10 to 15 year pavement plan that will then wrap into our capital. So it's pretty good timing. Our sidewalk improvements and ADA transition plan, we are expecting to spend $325,000 on sidewalk improvements over the next 5 years. That includes $85,000 in 26. So we have our ADA transition plan. And there are some things that absolutely need to happen, in 26. One of them being, a sidewalk in front of somebody that's wheelchair bound that doesn't have a ramp. The other side of the street has one, but that person's side doesn't. Those are things that we have to prioritize. Our public works shop code compliance, because Nikki anticipated that this was over $25,000, it has to go in here. You heard during our workshops that this is needed, that there's a whole bunch of electrical compliance that isn't happening out at the shop. This is what it's going to take to create a safe environment for our employees to go to work. That's why it's in for this budget. It's absolutely necessary. And this isn't the plants, this is our shop on 2nd Street. We're going to continue with our Water Smart, or what's phase 2 of our hydrogeological study. That estimated cost in our grant application was $511,000, almost $512,000. We received a grant, I think it was $293,000 or $250,000 towards the cost of that. We anticipated that our expenses would be greater, and we're able to use some of our hydro study as in kind for this grant. So, but we've budgeted for that. And then our cellular read meter replacement program, you kind of heard a little bit about that with that approval that we talked about earlier in this meeting. But over 5 years, we're expecting that to cost $500,000. That cost includes installation, and it also includes contingency should we run into an unknown or unexpected when somebody pops open that meter pit. I mean, there are some meter pits, particularly on that side of town over by Don's, where you open up a meter pit and there's like 6 meters in a pit going everywhere. Those are kind of the unexpected things we think we're going to continue to find. That's why we've budgeted high amount. But in the end, we'll have a reliable system that people will be able to get on their phone and kind of track their water consumption in real time. And it'll save on labor in the long. And then the final one is the transition to electric PLC valves at the water treatment plant. So we currently have they're air pressure actuated PLC valves, and it takes time for pressure to build up, so that valve opens, and then that valve closes. It takes time for that to happen. These electric will be almost instantaneous. There won't be that delay. The cameras that we have in the water plant are there on purpose because at one point, one of those valves stuck open and flooded the plant. And now we can watch it in real time to see, where, if there's an issue, we can see it and they can respond pretty quickly too. Okay, budget overviews for revenue. This is a consolidated and summarized of our town's revenue by source for all funds. You can see that, and this is also including our enterprise utility funds. You can see that our taxes overall for everything that we operate, everything that we do, 11% of all of the funds coming in 26 is taxes. That number would be larger if we didn't have loans and grants. Those loans are low interest loans, and they make up 35% in water. And then our grants are in water, and then our general fund, and that street, which is special revenue fund of the general fund, makes up 32% of our budget. So even though we see all these major capital outlays going in 26, 67% of them are supplemental funded. That means it's not coming from our residents. It's not coming for charges for services. Yes, or our utility customers. Yes, over time, they will be, we will be repaying those loans, but it's not due right away next year. Okay, so property tax. This is you heard about this earlier. The millage rate will remain the same at 8.322, And so just to give everyone an example of what a millage rate is, it's 1 mil represents $1 for every $1,000 of assessed property value. So, you know, that's kind of what we get based on that, you know, based on that calculation. You should also note that, or I should also note that we don't get it for every $1,000 of assessed value because that's before any credits are applied. So if you have, if you're a military vet, that was the big one that came in going into 25. If you're a military vet, you qualify for an additional credit that's, you know, above and beyond any normal credits. So those are some of the things that you'll see. I can't remember if there was a ballot issue. I know statewide we had approved one as well that would also affect this number. And in 24, so this is just good to note. This is before those credits went into place. In 24, we received $191,000 in revenue from property taxes. In 25, as of like this week, we have $158,000. And in 26, we're expecting it to remain the same at 60. So we've lost a little over $31,000 in expected property tax revenue because of credits or new credits. Our sales tax, so we break out how are residents or shoppers taxed in the town of Paonia. This is our sales tax schedule here. So you can see that, you know, while we have a 3% sales tax, the state also has a 2.9% sales tax. Delta County has a 2%. You also pay 0.8% for the public safety, that's back the badge, public safety improvements. And then we also pay another 0.8% for that, for the hospital, for the health services district. And then if you're buying, you know, marijuana, you got a $5 occupational tax in addition to that. So per transaction. Sales taxes are forecasted using historical trends for the last 5 years, combined with knowledge of new businesses that are locating in the town. Since sales tax revenue is our largest, you know, source of revenue, our largest ad valorem tax. It is also the first indicator of downward shifts in the economy. So we've done this revenue by conservatively projecting actual sales tax revenue, and then we monitor it throughout the year. Use tax, this is the wheel taxes that we get whenever you register your vehicle. So $1.50 and $2.50. That's why if somebody gets pulled over with expired plates, 23, it's a big deal for us because that's revenue that is generated that we rely on to provide those services. And that's why people have to continue to register their vehicles every year. We do have several excise taxes that are also on our residents: tobacco products, marijuana occupational tax, and then severance tax. So severance taxes, we saw, I mean, it used to be significant, right? That's pulling minerals out of the earth. We would see a share of that. That has significantly gone down over time. And it's, you know, due in part because there are no new oil and gas leasing that would affect us. And then pulling coal is also something that's not as high, right? That extraction. And then also natural gas. Franchise charges is a mess that will be cleaned up with our code rewrite because we have individual contracts with some franchisees, you know, like TDS and Elevate. Those are actually in our code. They're going to get removed. And then we're going to clean up our franchises. But we do receive franchise tax from just about every utility service provider that we have in town. We could also put a franchise tax in our water and wastewater programs and collect that as well. But again, that will raise utility rates for everybody. We don't do that.
That was removed.
Yeah, we keep
4 years ago.
So there you go. We keep that in those enterprise funds. Fines and forfeitures, those are things like VIN inspections, and then also like police activities. If there's somebody that comes to muni court, receives a judgment, those things are that make up fines, forfeitures, licensing, and these are like 0.3 and 0.2% of our overall budget. Licenses and permits, these are like value added things. If you're going for a license or a permit, like a building permit, you know, you have to come in and pay for those services, that plan review, those inspections, and then the actual permit. But I mean, those are the things that kind of make those up. Intergovernmental revenues, that's when you transfer from one fund into any other fund. This year, we don't have any, that's why there's just a sentence describing what that is. And then our charges for services, that's really what our enterprise funds are made up of. Those are utility charges. That's our water base rate, our water usage rates, any standby fees that you're paying. Wastewater only has one fee, even though there are people that, or there are communities that not only do a wastewater base rate, but they also charge for how much water comes into the house. It's going to go back into our wastewater system, so they also charge our wastewater usage fee. We don't do that. We only charge our wastewater base rate fees. And then our garbage or sanitation funds, or fees, those are things like you see on your bill based on your level of service. Miscellaneous revenues. We do have some miscellaneous revenues. We have highway users tax, motor vehicle registration fees, and I'll go into expenditures now. So this is where we're going to get into really what the budget looks like, what we're planning to spend in each department throughout the year. Our expenditures are 72% going into 26 make up capital outlay. Those are significant investments in our existing infrastructure and our existing assets. That's huge. Considering that for 50 years, we didn't really invest what we should have in water and wastewater, you know, this is a good thing. It's going to really up our fixed assets when we do our audit. 15% is personnel and 13% is operations. It's typical that personnel is always your highest category at the departmental level because you got to pay people to do the job. And then our operating costs, you know, they are going up. I did see that DMEA is also looking at a utility rate increase, which, you know, passes down to us. And then we have to do something like with our water rates, if we're going to have to increase them as well, which we've already planned, it's done for 4 years. But we didn't plan on a 7.8% utility rate increase. So that's something I'll really have to look into. But they are raising utility rates 7.8%. If you look at that for the wastewater plant, our wastewater plant alone with aerators generates about a $3,500 to $4,200 bill every month, and just in electricity. And so that, you know, those are things that we have to consider as we continue those services. Okay. This is our debt service. It's a lot. We have debt service not just from what we're doing for this year, but also going back, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we're still repaying some of that debt. We do have a loan that we pay out of the water fund annually until 29. That's when it falls off. So we got several more years, but it's just shy of $23,500. Our first WPA loan between water and wastewater is $147,825 in 26, but it increases annually until it's exhausted. And then our revenue refunding bonds. This is the one that's pretty hard. It has a debt reserve that we also have to maintain, that we maintain in Colo Trust, and you see that every month. But $98,350 in 26, and that's because it was a revenue refunding bond.
Remember how long it's going?
I want to say it's like 2035. So we've got some time on that one too. And then our new loan, $264,000 annually until 2045. However, we are going to have, the orange water some people see in their system in like the change of the season in spring. That's going away because we're getting rid of all of the last of our steel pipes that are currently in service and replacing them with something new. We're also building our capacity in those pipes, going from 8 inches to 12 and 10 inches. So that's a big deal as well. Okay. Any questions so far on kind of the makeup of our budget? I know it's pretty dense, but we worked on this for months, so I gotta go. I won't go over the general fund summary. That's pretty, it's kind of regurgitation of what's been said, but then now looking at it specifically for the general fund. But what I will go over is our fund balance. So we are, this goes 22, 23, 24, and 25 year-end estimates. That's that very top line, that beginning fund balance in general fund alone. This isn't the sales tax capital improvement fund that's also in general fund. This is specifically general fund meant for personnel and operating expenses. We are looking to end 2025 with $752,493. However, looking at how we've trended and our spending, I think we're going to start 26 and end 25 with $813,338. So that's what we're using as our baseline before any revenues come in. Then when we go through revenues, we're looking at bringing in for fiscal year 26 a total of $1,662,750. That amount gets added to the fund balance amount and makes up all of the revenues that we have that can go towards appropriations or expenditures. That being said, that's where we come up with spending down that fund balance because our $101,825 because we're looking at our expenditures through every department being about 1.7 million. That'll leave us with a fund and an ending fund balance of 711,513 in the general fund alone. Okay, this is our general fund by revenue type. This is where taxes are our lion's share of revenue, right? When you take everything out and you look at just the general fund, yes, it's made up of taxes. Those are the things that we rely on to be able to provide the services that we provide. You also see that fines and forfeitures make up 16% of those expenses, and then intergovernmental is 4%. And our licenses, permits, and fees is only 4% of the overall general fund budget. Our expenditures. So in 26, our largest expenditure by far is streets, is law enforcement. And that's normal. Public safety always takes the majority share of a general fund budget because they don't have other allocations. They can't pull from a utility or an enterprise fund unless we did a parking program. And please don't do that to me. But that's what makes up the lion's share of our general fund. The next largest is my office, but that you got to remember that's 3 in 1. That's finance, that's clerk's office, and that's our building permit program as well. Then we've got our streets and building and parks and rec. General fund expenses by category. This is unusual. Normally you've got personnel that makes up the majority of expenditures, and then operations. But because we have so much capital outlay for the Fifth and Grand project, that makes up 72% of our overall general fund. Okay, let's see. I'll give you some of the highlights. The balance the budget by. So these are some of the priorities that I got from you guys based on all of our meetings, and then some guidelines and best practices. And these include balancing the budget by ensuring current revenues support current expenditures while maintaining all required and appropriated reserves. We're doing that with this budget. And we're still having a pretty healthy fund balance in every single one. We're investing meaningfully in the town's future by advancing critical water, wastewater, sanitation, street, and public safety infrastructure while establishing sustainable, predictable cost structures. We know what things are going to cost with our capital improvement plan over 5 years. Provide a high level of service quality within the limits of available resources and capacity. Use actual and forecasted 25 revenues and expenditures to inform our 26 assumptions. And then adapt to the current and projected economic environment affecting municipalities across Delaware County and Western Colorado. You guys saw that in one of our workshops. I did a detailed look into our revenue forecasts that I probably should add into this as an appendix to show how we arrived at those numbers. And we did that by looking at our existing trends over 10 years, what we actually brought in. But we also used the state economists' data, and then I think we also used CMU economic data for the Western Slope, and then specifically for spending habits in Delaware County. So that's how we arrived at some of our revenue projections. And then we're adhering to the Board of Trustees' guiding principles and commitment to transparency, and accountable fiscal management. You guys brought that up in our strategic plan. And it's something that when I first got here that we've really focused on. That's why we do the monthly budget actuals. And we uphold the town's mission to deliver excellent services that support the safety, well-being, and long-term prosperity of Peter's residents. Okay, now the meat and potatoes of the budget. Okay, so this is the actual revenue for fiscal year 26. That far right column is what would be considered adopted tonight. That's what you guys, are really focused on. The second to last column is what was proposed, what I presented to you in October, and so that we can see the changes. So you can see that we really dialed in our revenue forecast. Then you'll see that we've cut back or cut some expenses between what was originally presented and then what's going to be adopted, hopefully tonight. And then we also look at the actuals for 23 and 24. I think that was what helped guide. I think that was good to provide. I think you guys need to see that, but it's what helps provide that forecasting for revenue. We're looking at there's a big one that's a big change in 26, and that's the occupational tax, that $5 transaction fee. We're relying on that to help balance this fiscal year 26 general fund budget. It used to go into our capital improvement plan budget. It was like that's where it had to go. It had to go towards street improvements and things like that. And that's you'll see in that fund, it's got a healthy fund balance as well. This year, we're using it in the general fund like we can, like that when it was passed by our voters several years ago. Overall, we're looking at our total fund general fund revenues of $1,662,750. There is no interfund transfers, and we're expecting all expenditures to be $1,764,575,000. Excuse me, with an unending unrestricted fund balance of $711,513. I say unrestricted because we have a Tabor reserve requirement that is not reflected in this number. So we're not even touching what we have to keep by law. So that is specifically what is called a reserve. What we're talking about is unrestricted fund balance. This is a summary of staffing changes. These are full-time equivalents. So for the administration department, we're going up a position and a half, and then I put 1.8 positions. So we're adding a full-time front desk position, but we're also covering a portion of the cost for a community services officer in the police department. That's that code enforcement officer, that we've been looking at for several years. The police department is going up by 0.7 because that is a community services officer. Building is remaining at 0 because that is all outsourced. Both our plan review, our building official, and our building inspector outsourced. Our streets department is maintaining at 4.5. Our parks and recreation is 1.7. We've got seasonal employees budgeted for this year as well. That's what makes it at 0.7. And then our water has 1.5 and our wastewater has 1.5. We're maintaining 3 people between those two divisions of public works. And sanitation, that is 2.5 people. We're just maintaining that. Told you I'd dial that in. If you remember, it was all this, I dialed it. Now here is head counts. So forget that we looked at full-time equivalents. These are actual head counts based on the home department. So administration department, I'm looking at adding 1 position, right? That is that front desk person that's also an administrative assistant. But overall, we're down a person because we're getting rid of that part-time. That was one of the things that from the proposed adopted, that Friday part-time, desk goes away, and now we just have a front desk person. So major goals and changes. So that explains the personnel changes. We're continuing to focus in 26 on improving service delivery with updating and modernizing permit applications, review processes, and records management. And then we're increasing revenue through the inclusion of certain fees related to plan reviews, application meetings and zoning verification letters. We are going to have to update our fee structure because what it costs for mailing letters to people that are going through quasi judicial, we're not recovering our costs. So we've got to up that. That's what we're finding out with like special review fees and stuff like and things like that.
That's by resolution.
Yeah, that was I did that December 23. Capital requests. So this is where I'm like, please fix my roof. And that's being budgeted for this upcoming year. Purchasing new server equipment to back up our ERP database. Water fountain replacement town hall with a bottle fill station. This water fountain out here, if you guys have tried to use it, I wouldn't do it. So, but we're going to replace that and then finish our code revisions and update the housing needs assessment, housing action plan. That's part of that grant funding that we received $7,500 to update our housing needs assessment, housing action plan to reflect what was in a Senate bill that passed. It passed after we adopted our housing needs assessment. So now we've got to come into compliance, state gave us a grant for that. This is a breakdown of our expenses. You can see the majority of it is in personnel expenses, then it's operating and then capital outlay. That's how it normally should be. It's not how it normally looks. You can see that I had proposed in personnel services in October, $188,800. This budget you hopefully adopt tonight says $183,500. So it's been reduced between the proposed to this adopted. In operating, we had proposed $356,300. We reduced that to $349,050. And then our capital outlay was expected to be $125,000 and only in two different categories. That's been broken up and it's been reduced to $93,000. That $3,000 I told you at our December 5th workshop that I was in this, what was presented on the screen, but different from your packets, that's included in this. And that was for furniture for new employees. Law enforcement. So you can see that they're gaining one full-time non-exempt position. And again, their major goal is that they're going from 8 to 9, representing a net increase of 1 FTE, full-time equivalent. That's that community services officer. This is the first year of the patrol radio replacement program. You heard that, they've got to maintain, what do they call that? P25?
Yeah, so it's covered that way we can talk with the computers, so. Yeah.
Right, so it's this technology that they've got to start replacing the radios. You heard in our workshops that, one of them just doesn't even work. One of them's all beat up. And so we're going to start that replacement program starting in 26. We're also starting a squad car replacement program, including outfitting. I talked about that earlier. And then we're also starting the less than lethal weapons outfitting. The BB guns, as Trustee Heck had called them earlier. You can see law enforcement expenses are expected to be that with those capital outlays. You can see that from the proposed to the adopted, we've reduced it from 802,000 in personnel to 796,300. But we've increased our operating expenses from October from 950 to 954,100. That was because of there were a couple of things that I didn't include, like Lexapol and I think it was Motorola, and we've included those in the a better breakout of what those costs will be in this final. Capital outlay went from 67.5 to 85.6, and part of that building improvement is the repair of the town hall. Building department, no change in personnel. No real major goals and changes. The only expense we have in this is operating. 100% is operating because we have outsourced it to Schultz Code for plan review and building official, and then the city of Delta with Jason, who is our building inspector. They've been, our building inspector's been doing an excellent job. I see no reason to change that relationship that going into 26. Schultz Code, we still got to dial some things in, but overall, for the amount of permits that have come through, I'm still happy with their work. But they do sometimes pull things from Arizona. I'm like, dude, we're not Arizona. What are you doing? So we still have some of those things we have to dial in. Public Works, Street Division. So I dialed in kind of where home departments are for people. So it looks like we're losing people. We're not. What Nikki's doing is maintaining what she currently has across all of her divisions within Public Works. Their major goals are that they're adding 2 seasonal employees. I have them in the wrong spot. But that's going to be Parks Division. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because they are shared with the Street Division. We're adding a new line item for right-of-way maintenance, which includes trimming of trees. So both streets and parks have a right-of-way maintenance line item in capital outlays specific to maintaining that right-of-way and trimming trees. Could also be planting trees as well. But that's something that we've included. Again, it aligns with our comprehensive plan and the things that we said we would do. So putting that comp plan into action. Their capital requests, they've got a lot of them, but they're all necessary. Samuel Wade Bridge, local match, Safe Streets for All, sidewalk improvements, ADA transition plan improvements, public works shop compliance, Fifth and Grand realignment, beginning the street sign replacement program, something in that CIP. If you look, we've got signs that are crooked. They're not on what we call a quick, oh my gosh, it's a breakaway pole, which is required. And then some of those signs are faded. So this is that street sign replacement program. And then also starting to get a storage, get shop storage and inventories like stock replacement parts and supplies. You know, we're trying to say goodbye to the days where we go to Dependable and buy 1 screw at a time, and instead buy a whole box of screws from Dependable, right? That kind of stuff. That's what we're looking at trying to get into place. This is not normal, but it's because again, it's our Fifth and Grand project. 95% of all of the street budget is in capital outlay. Usually that's a lot less. And then here you can see where we've made some adjustments. So because we changed some fixed allocations for personnel and we moved some people around, what their home department is or change the percentage of what their wages and benefits are and how they come out of street fund, it reduced what was proposed from $170,000 to $141,175 in this final budget. Our operating expenses, we dialed in a little bit more and moved some things that should really be capital outlays, pulled from a different pot of money into capital outlay. So we proposed 268, we arrived at 244,175. But then you look at our capital outlay and it goes, we proposed 3,630,000, but we're arriving at $4,256,986. So a lot of that though is grant funded. Public Works, this is the Parks and Rec division. So this is where we added 2 seasonal non-exempt employees. And sorry. It's all. Adding, so then we have, we're adding a new line item again in parks for right-of-way maintenance and trees. That's in the park specific. And then it can also be used for the peonies around the park as well. Doing those things. They have some capital requests. Funding for parks irrigation sprinkler replacement. You know, it's a manual project, you know, and it takes a lot of staff time to manually put in each sprinkler, manually remove each sprinkler. And what we're looking at is going to an automated system that still uses the ditch water. That funding has been allocated for 26. The playground equipment to replace the merry-go-round, it is in this budget for next year. We are replacing that merry-go-round. And then water bottle fill stations and water fountains. We've budgeted for 1 water fountain in the bathrooms, I think is what we're gonna do, because it's kind of like
It's kind of indoor.
it's kind of indoor outdoor. But for 26, but then 27, 28, 29, we're looking at putting in standalone water fountains with water bottle fill stations. that are, they're not refrigerated and they're secure, they're 4-season, so they're okay for the elements. And then we're also looking at park and right-of-way maintenance equipment, lawnmowers. You heard in our budget workshops that they're working on these old lawnmowers. It reminds me of Trailer Park Boys. Some of the stuff they're doing, but they need some new lawnmowers. So that they can continue to do a bang up job. So you can see the parts of, this is kind of normally how it would look, personnel being your largest, operating being the next largest, and it's not, operating would be the next largest, but capital outlay in this instance is also the largest. The presented budget was reduced significantly, from 137,000 in personnel to 113,500 in this, what we've arrived at for this final budget. In operating expenditures, we proposed 193,000. We arrived at 190 or 175. But our capital outlay goes up, right? Different pot of money that we're pulling from. So we adjusted some things to make sure we're pulling out of the correct pots. We proposed 50,000. We've arrived at 85,500. And part of that was also based on the needs that was discussed in our workshops as we were building building and prioritizing those capital improvements. We realized we've got to spend a little bit more in 26 to help them provide that new service delivery, new level of service. No changes in personnel and water, but we're spending a lot of money in water. And part of that is because of the capital requests. We got our 2 million gallon Lamborn finished water tank relining project that's expected to go into next year. We've got our Western Loop replacement project, raw water metering and diversion box improvements, our Water Smart grant, which is phase 2 of that hydrogeological study. Cellular read meter replacement program begins next year, and transition to electric PLC valves at the wastewater treatment plant from that pressure program, and then those pressure valves, and then beginning vehicle replacement program. So they've got a significant amount of capital outlays, but they're necessary. You can see their total expenses are almost $8.5 million. However, most of that is grant and loan funded, low interest loan funded. This is where personnel expenses went up. So you wonder, well, how did we reduce the general fund budget? What was fixed allocations? We changed some fixed allocations for salaries and benefits, and moved them into water. We're anticipating water revenue based on our, even though I'll get to that in a second. But our water revenue, because we start the beginning of the year with an increased rate that's already been established in that last year. We're looking at a proposed budget of $8,014,000 to $8,271,000. We think that we're going to see higher revenue, but we're also pulling more from our loan for these projects for next year. And then I also put in some grant funding that I had been missing. So, but we're pulling that in for in that what we arrived at. Our personnel services proposed at 528,000, but we arrived at 492,450. And that's due in part to fixed allocation changes, but then also realizing that we're not doing a full 5% increase. We're doing a 2% COLA, and then some employees may get a 3% merit base, but not every employee. Operating expenses went up significantly from what was proposed into what we've arrived at. We proposed 719,000. We arrived at 1,129,000, and that reflects more. The big change there is putting all of our loan payments and reflecting all of that in 60-50-50. So it went from 215,000 to 615,000, showing you that reflects that debt service that I showed you on a previous page. Capital outlays are like, holy smokes. 6,747,000 is what we proposed. We arrived at 6,859,000. But that is all of our phase 1 projects happening next year, almost simultaneously. We're hoping that the tank relining project ends before that Western Loop replacement project begins, and then before we start our raw water stuff. We are looking at spending down fund balance here, and part of that is due to the local match for our Water Smart grant that we received. We've got to pull out of our fund balance to cover our local match, expected local match. So we're looking at pulling 209,450 from fund balance. We're gonna start the year with about 1.6 million in fund balance. We're gonna end the year with 1,384,644. Those are projected fund balance that, I don't see them. I would say that they're not gonna go any further. I think if anything, they could go up based on what we're able to complete in 26. Wastewater, again, no changes. However, this does look at 4 capital requests. We're talking about our project capital improvement planning. That's that design work to go towards it's a project needs assessment, then actually designing some work to improve our wastewater collection system. It can be partially grant funded, but we don't know if we're going to get that yet or not. So we didn't budget like we were going to get it. And then this begins that sewer line CCTV inspection program. It was a 5-year cost that we broke up over 5 years. I think we allocated a little over 12,000 a year for it. Number 3 is procuring a boat with a winch for sewer ponds. Derek will thank you very much, because right now it's him in a paddle boat and it like pulls him around. So replacing that boat is going to be a big.
Don't you have a video?
Oh, it is pretty impressive. But it's safety, because if he falls into that, the sewer lagoon, it's nasty. And we also, I think we have, it's funny, we have like a life preserver there that we could throw out, but don't ever want to do that. So we need a boat. It's budget. Vehicle replacement program funding. So it's again, that cost sharing, that vehicle replacement. Normally we budgeted for depreciation, that's that deferred maintenance. This year, we're not looking at anything, right? We're not being able to put anything back towards maintenance. So we're gonna have to, long term, we're gonna have to look at our rates. I have to do a 20-year cash flow analysis anyway, for that project needs assessment. So we'll know what wastewater will look like. I didn't want to go into 26 requesting that we increase rates, because we've increased utility rates across the board, and people on fixed incomes, it's not. We're trying to be cognizant of what people's, checkbook looks like. We proposed 810,000 in wastewater revenue, and what we're arriving at is 812,000, and that was based on updated projected ending for 25. Personnel, we had proposed 473,000. We've arrived at 475,150. It's changes to fixed allocations. For operating expenses, we proposed 321,500. We're arriving at 341,500. That's in that 70-51-20 line item, professional services, engineering, that kind of stuff, because we are working on that P&A, that project needs assessment. And then our capital outlay went from 15,000 proposed to arriving at 61,850. That's after we dialed in that capital improvement plan, and then started looking at like the sewer line improvements, 70-51-74, $12,000 for that CCTV cameraing. We need to do it. I think we have to do it every 5 years anyway. So this is that first year of that 5-year plan by that CDPHE makes us do. We're looking at dipping into that fund balance, $66,500. We had proposed that we're going to add to it by 500, but we're going to, we're arriving at dipping into it. Our unrestricted, and these are all unrestricted fund balances. I should caveat all of this. This isn't the stuff that we have to have for debt service. We already have that. That's separate. This is unrestricted, meaning it can be used for any use. So we're starting the year with $437,370 and ending the year with $370,870 in wastewater. Our sanitation department, this is where we added some employees going into 26, but again, it's not It's not, this is just their home department. It's head counts, not full-time equivalents. They have some goals here. They're modernizing the billing and collections procedures for trash service and ensure that garbage charges in utility billing reflect the level of service customers are actually receiving. That's been a kind of a big problem that we're seeing. Some people that might have a single can agreement have 6 additional trash bags out for pickup, but paying that lesser rate, and we're still picking up their trash. And really, we should add each bag into that bill. So if you're gonna get a single can agreement, you're gonna get a single can that if it's kind of like that old post service advertisement. If it fits, it ships, right? If it fits in the can, we'll take it. If it's outside the can, you're gonna get charged. Capital requests, 2 trash trucks, 2 tires, 2 sets, and then standardized trash cans for 35-gallon and 95-gallon cans. Our expenses, this is a little bit more like what every other department will look like. Where the lion's share is personnel, your next is operating, and your final is capital outlay. Okay, we are anticipating, so here's why I've had to adjust our revenues. We proposed 380,500, but we're arriving at 378.5. It's because projected for the end of the year, revenues are looking down. And I say that because we had a rush of people come in for single trash can agreements when we updated our trash code. There were some people that I think they were paying for additional cans, but they only ever used 1 can, so that was okay. I think there might have been some people that came in knowing that now there's a single can that they can get charged less for, still putting out multiple cans. We're seeing that with our trash. That our employees are saying that on their trash routes. So we're budgeting like we're going to see less revenue until we can dial things in and get standardized codes. We did our personnel services. We had proposed 244,950. We've arrived at 216,500. Our operating expenses went up, so that's where that difference went. We proposed 135,550. We are arriving at 153,000. I anticipate that the county is going to do kind of the same thing that they did with tipping fees and increase it after we've all passed our budgets. So that's kind of where I'm arriving at. That's that 5242 landfill fees. You can see went from 45,000 to 51,400. Then our capital outlay went up because Nikki needs new tires. We proposed 65,000. We've arrived at 70. That leaves us going into that fund balance $64,000. That's to buy these cans. So we're looking at starting unrestricted fund balance at 234,560 and arriving at 170,560 for the end of the year. The final, before I get into the capital improvement plan, is the North Fork Valley Airport. So we haven't seen any invoices come in from the county yet because they are designing some work like a repair out at the runway. So I'm carrying that cost over into next year. We're looking at a capital outlay of about $75,000 and continuing to bring in about just under 7,700 a year. I've been working with SBA, who is the leaseholder on that tower, to try to get more tenants on it. Right now we have none. SBA is just paying us to be able to manage that lease, but they have no providers on that cell tower. If they do get somebody on there, we're going to see that lease, that revenue increase. I've been working to try to get different providers up there in addition to T-Mobile, like Verizon and AT&T, who are already on our P Hill tower. And I think Verizon's been activated. So if you have a Verizon phone, you probably get service now. So just so you know,
Anybody getting service?
yeah. And then that one looks like having and I need to change that. It's not really an unrestricted. This is restricted for North Fork Valley Airport. We'd be looking at a restricted fund balance ending if we spend everything out of $492. Okay, the capital improvement plan. This is where all of those special revenue funds that were not shown in the general fund revenue side, they are shown on this balance sheet. We're on the schedule, it's not a balance sheet schedule. You can see that we're anticipating about $3.8 million across all of those funds. That's the general fund CIP, the street fund CIP, the street fund CIP fifth and grand, which is specific to next year only because it's grant funding that's come in. And then our sidewalk fund CIP and our conservation fund trust, our conservation trust fund. All of those revenues, we had proposed for $4,382,874. We've arrived at $3,760,278 because we dialed that in. These are funds that were general fund, but they're specifically restricted for a purpose. We're looking at capital expenditures across all funds, including the bridge reserve, which after researching when we received it from the county and the agreement that's in place, it isn't specific to a bridge reserve. It was meant for any transportation related expenditure, meaning street CIP. So, but we as the town have further restricted that only to the bridge. And so that's what you see in the Colo Trust Fund, those funds meant for that bridge reserve. But we're looking at across all of our funds having a beginning and ending fund balance in the positive. So these are funds that are meant to go towards improvements, and they really shouldn't have built it up as high as we did. We should have been like continuously improving our streets. Glad we didn't, because do that, because now we have fund balance to use towards a capital program, and we can look good that we're actually doing these infrastructure improvements. So that being said, the general fund CIP, we're looking at next year a net surplus of $13,400. We're looking at a beginning balance of $513,186 and an ending balance of $526,586. In the street CIP, because of the requirement of our Safe Streets for All local match, we're looking at a spend down or a net loss of $221,208. We are looking at I call this a restricted fund balance because it has things that they can't go to any purpose. We're looking at a starting fund balance of $913,032 and an ending fund balance of $691,824. Still a really high fund balance. Our sidewalk CIP, we're looking at with revenues coming in and our fund balance spending out at $58,500. That's actually $85,000 when you look at our CIP. We're looking at a starting fund balance of $150,623 in the sidewalk CIP and ending at $92,123. We plan to significantly invest in sidewalks next year. The Conservation Trust Fund, we are exhausting this year. So you'll see in that budget amendment that I'm taking all the CIP and transferring it to the general fund because we paid out of the general fund for Conservation Trust Fund CIP things, the bathroom repair, right? So that's going to be almost exhausted, if not exhausted. And then we're looking at a net surplus at the end of next year of $5,500, which we will have a CIP fund balance beginning $8,797 because we have over $30,000 in it right now. So I'm spending the majority of it now. And then we're going to end that with $14,297. Our bridge reserve, we're looking at spending down $493,500. We have a beginning balance of $671,000, and we're looking to end that at $177,500. So you heard across every fund, we are not negative. We are not deficit spending. Yes, we do have loans, but we're meeting those loan obligations every year with the revenues that we get coming in or our charges for services. So every fund balance, even though we're doing a lot of capital outlay next year, still has hundreds of thousands of dollars in it for future use. This is our 5-year capital improvement plan. So it represents a little over $17 million worth of capital outlays over 5 years. And what you'll see is that each, the number on the left is just a reference number on where it's at in the CIP. It's not a prioritization score. we've already done all of that stuff. This is, what you'll look at is, fiscal year 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And then it's things like, the patrol car, getting new patrol cars, those are broken out. That big $150,000 is broken out over 5 years. So this is kind of our roadmap, and I explained in that budget workshop on Friday that I felt like we were running a million miles a minute. And we kept having all these projects. We were like, oh, well, we could go for a grant for that. We could go for a grant. It felt like spaghetti on a wall at times. This is saying, okay, I've heard you. Staff, you've heard staff. This is the document that we're gonna use as a roadmap. So one of the things on here is backup generators in 27 or 28, I think. Number 6, it's 28. That is saying that we will probably go for a grant from a FEMA grant next year, but knowing that it won't be funded until 27, and we probably won't even mobilize these generators until 28. So, I mean, this is helping us to identify what we need to go after. It's a better way of doing things than to go, yeah, this year sounds good. We know what year we're gonna go. We can pre-plan and start working towards, our goals. This was a heavy lift, and this was the most of your sausage making, through this budget session. And I know there was confusion throughout, and I probably should have led with, this is what it's gonna look like. Because then you could see what that final product is gonna be. Then we look at this is something that's not usually put in, but I wanted to include it to show that the majority of our capital outlays are supplementally funded. They come from outside sources like grants and loans, so that, a resident or a customer can look at our everything that we're doing and go, okay, I understand that, well, yes, they're buying things, they're also looking for supplemental ways to pay for those things instead of just trying to affect my pocketbook. That was the entire intent of providing this. The rest is just like our demographic information and then our appendices. Really don't need to go into that unless you kind of want to go rehash all the sausage making that we've done for the last several months. That concludes fiscal year 26's budget presentation. You've still got public comment.
Okay, hang on, let me use my script. So are there any other staff comments?
Good job, Steve.
Big lift this year.
I will say Saturday, I came in after the holiday fair at about 5 p.m. and I didn't leave until this was what it looks like here until 5 a.m. on Sunday morning.
He sent me a text, which I didn't see, hours later. I'm like, are you nocturnal?
Oh, I gotta get this done.
I couldn't believe it. So, yeah. So it's, the nice thing is it'll make the next budget year so much easier since we've got a template now. Public comment. I will now open the public comment portion of the public hearing. And anyone who's interested in coming up to the podium, I'll ask you to state your name, full name and address, and ask that you tell the truth on this matter. So would anyone in the room like to come up and make a public comment on anything with the budget? And it's not a quiz. But seeing none, really, everybody's good? You're good? Okay, you're really good. Is somebody getting coached? I mean, if you have a question, because we're here to answer the questions, right? This is not just a thank you. This is,
It's a public hearing.
yeah, we will answer questions you have. So if you have any, you feel free, and be sure that all of us, it took us a long time to understand it all, quite honestly. Okay, so now if you'll give me your
My name
full
is
name and
Ethel.
address.
I live on Ethel Short. I live on Second Street.
Do you swear to tell the truth in
Yes, I
this
do.
matter?
I do.
Thank you.
I just been curious, is this the first time this has ever been done in the town of Pena?
You mean a budget?
like with this kind of detail.
No, never been done.
We did,
I mean,
we did it for this
last year.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't have the 5-year capital. Historically, has it ever been done like this? And historically, pre-Stefan, no.
No.
Please state your name and address.
Rebecca Corona, 220 Grand Avenue.
And do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
You betcha. Okay, so this is, my question is that I would like to propose something, but I'm too late because it's only about what's already been chosen for this budget, this in 2026. So I'm gonna have to put in a request for something to be in the budget for the following year, and I can start that.
Yeah, but you can ask us, you can bring it up tonight. We'd love to know what you're thinking.
Right, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that as a business owner, and the hours of my operation are 7 days a week, 10 AM to 6 PM daily from April 1st through December 31st. There are many times when other businesses are not open or available, when we have visitors or guests coming to this area, and there's no place for me to send them to the bathroom unless I send them to the park. So say a restaurant's open till 3 on Sunday. Say they come to my business to shop at 4:30, and there's no place for them to go for a public restroom except the park. Or I inevitably let them use my restroom in my home. I'm wondering, and I know that there are cities and places all over the world that have public restrooms that are not an actual brick and mortar, but are as good as that, and that there are ways to supply water to them, and there are ways to pick up the waste from them, just like any temporary toilet, but to have it on a more permanent basis so that people could maybe set it at the back of Bullis Park, so that people are able to go to the bathroom, our visitors. It's a little hard for me to tell a customer that, no, nothing's open, but if you want to go to the bathroom, you can go 6 blocks to the park and do that. And are they gonna come back and shop with me? Probably not.
Yeah, except 5 minutes. You get 5 minutes.
Oh, we got
Yeah, come back.
Right, so that's kind of what I want to think about maybe for the following year, and that we could come and find, I mean, there's so many places that we can look for something to be able to use in our little community. That would be, since this bathroom is closed once you all leave the building, and I get that it has been abused, I get that. You can't put a camera in, but you could put a camera outside and you can catch them in the act of what they've done into the restrooms. And so that we could have something available for visitors. I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. It would be helpful.
Thanks for the suggestion. I don't know at this point what is possible, but
I'll bring some choices for you to look at. How's that? Thank you for your.
yeah, no, that's great.
You still have 18
You
seconds.
still have time. You have anything else? What? Merry-go-round would you like to
Don't
see?
give me stalkers to that. I want one for adults. I think adults should have a playground as well as the children. Please. Give us No, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing, sorry. Shouldn't ask. When you're fixing the streets and gutters, could we fix the one in front of my building that it doesn't drain, the gutter does not make the water go down, it just puddles there, makes a giant ice pile.
Do you know the building?
Yeah, in front of the one, yeah. It's right where it's in fact, it's where the people get out for, disability parking. It's right where they get out, and it's just a big ice spot.
It does it here too.
Yeah. Just say.
All those things that you might know. Thank you. Is anyone inspired to come up now? Is there anyone online? It doesn't look like it. Yeah. All right.
It is our wedding anniversary, by the way.
Today? Oh, congratulations.
That's probably what you.
Congratulations.
10 years, 10 years.
Wow. So, does the staff wish to offer further comment? Okay, then I will now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Comment about the hearing record. Before we turn to board questions and deliberation, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the proposed budget and mill levy, the notice of hearings and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? Seeing none. So now it's time for the trustees to ask questions, and who wants to be first? Who has a question? Sure.
And it's actually on the resolution.
Uh-oh.
So I think the years are right in section 5, where it talks about the mill levy. So it says, for the purpose of meeting all expenditures general fund during 2025 budget year, we levy the mill levy for the tax year 2026. That's accurate.
Yep.
Okay. Section 4, I believe 2065 should be 2026.
I'm just, jumping into the future.
Is it for my question?
Is it?
What else? Other questions? No? I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if when the sewer gets hammered and if you see a sewer that you can tell is really in bad shape, are we gonna be in a position to potentially repair something before it collapses? I mean. And when I'm asking the question, well, it's about money, would we have, because Doris Avenue collapsed and it ended up costing, I know it was, was it a full block? On Doris, it was $300,000.
It was.
Yeah, it was just the 100 block.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, are we in a position that we could figure out how to fix something before we have to do an
So,
emergency?
yes, that's part of the P and A as well, is that we camera these to see where those like clay pipes are, and that's where we stopped.
Yeah.
So that was the whole purpose of it.
No,
If one does collapse, I couldn't tell you if that's depending on what.
is it cheaper to do it before it collapses?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so that's what I'm wondering,
Yeah.
is if there could be some consideration, if you know which ones are kind of worse, I know they're all bad. And what we're referring to for the public is all the sewer pipe, our sewer pipe runs in the alleys for the most part. It's old clay pipe that has its life has been long extended, so we know that they need to be replaced and they can collapse.
And we don't know that. That's what we got to.
And so part of this is for the next 5 years. They will be cameraed, so we can see exactly how bad they look. But I'm just wondering if we could be proactive, if you see a stretch that looks terrible.
Yes.
Could we use some fund balance, but I don't think we have that much fund balance in wastewater.
Correct. So if we do find one like that, there are other alternatives that we can use rather than open trenching, cutting and replacing pipe.
Okay.
There's a product that I've had success with in old clay pipes, and even plastic pipes. It realigns it from the inside. So think of it like it's not epoxy, but it's,
It pulls it up.
yeah, and so it creates an entirely new liner on the inside. They pull this brush through and it creates a completely new pipe all the way through. It's a good thing for fixing. but it's not a long-term solution.
It's a short-term
It is.
solution, so that one could
It's a
almost
10-year
move down.
fix.
Oh, so it could move down on the list of ones to be changed.
Depending, because typically when you start a sewer line collapse, like let's say, then it's gonna keep going
Yeah.
until it reaches the next manhole. So like Doris, that's why we replaced from that collapse the entire length of the street to the, all the way to the manholes, the manhole there.
So you didn't
And I
have.
think we had a manhole with that one too.
Yeah, there's that too, but, and it is different from like the root treatment and stuff that we do preventative maintenance every year because we have some areas that severe root issues. We don't keep up on that.
And the other issue that we run into is our wastewater also includes our stormwater. So we don't have a utility specific to stormwater. Thankfully, with that federal grant we got for Fifth and Grand, rather than using wastewater money to fix the stormwater issues out there, we were able to leverage that federal loan to do that. Same thing with the, water, we were able to use that federal loan instead of using water funds. But the bigger issue is that we really need to start thinking about a stormwater utility as well, because we are removing a conflict out there with Paonia Ditch in our existing storm system, where our outfall would have gone into Paonia Ditch and caused flooding to the, west of Grand.
Yeah.
So we're removing that conflict, but we have other conflicts specifically on Maine where we've, in the past, we've allowed a ditch company to put their transmission lines through the middle of our storm system pipes. Instead of, tearing up people's right of way and our right of way and yards, used our stormwater pipe. So if there's flooding on that side of town, which I know there is, it's most likely due to what do you call it? An obstructed pipe caused by ditch water.
We're also trying to run into a little bit of groundwater issues. as well.
Right.
There's.
Infiltration.
Yeah.
Then the last question I had, which is really for context, what are we paying per ton for when we go to landfill?
Is it 60 something? So, okay.
And there's now going to be that new yard waste pickup, which will reduce the costs of going to the landfill,
Right.
paying per ton. Okay, I just could not remember how much we pay per ton, and that could go up this year. It already went up $15.
One of our officers, the managers, I need to ask and find out if he's planning
The scuttlebutt.
Yeah.
That's all I had, which was just edification on things, so if no one else has any comments, let me read on. All right, no further comments or questions. I will now close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the Board of Trustees for consideration of the matter listed on the agenda. And want to discuss budget mill levy and the attributes supporting a determination to approve or deny in accordance with applicable provisions of state statute and town code. And if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution 2925, adopting fiscal year 2026 budget and appropriating funds for all components of the municipal operation and levying of the 2026 mill levy as set as 8.322 mils.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
No.
Okay, and now we can have a roll call. And I'm just reading off the script.
You're perfect.
Aye.
Just have.
Aye.
Here you go.
Trustee Hunter,
Aye.
trustee Check,
Aye.
trustee Majorado,
Aye.
that or motion carries.
Hallelujah.
Happy anniversary for.
We do not have anything to report from the ad hoc committee. Correct.
We kind of talked.
Yeah, I guess that's on the agenda, so I want to make sure. So I'm not gonna,
Oh, we do have a new trustee.
So- I think we're ready to go with everyone signing. I have a pen. You'll sign the disbursements.
I took on lunch today, and she said it was the cheapest we've done in 10 years.
Oh, didn't you get a keep on? So I'm gonna adjourn yet. Oh, and you know, Clay, how are you?
Yeah, that's good.
I got a piece to fit.
Like the rest of it.
All right, there's just a handful of us left, so I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. We did it quick.